it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Because
I think
what
it's
you're doing.
I think it's over-explained a lot, which leave it to us.
I know, right? Women just yapping away. We are here with CEO of Abortion Positivity Project, Sophie Nir. Very excited to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, there's so much to talk about. I was saying earlier before we started recording, the amount of women that have been arrested for miscarrying is wild. And Corinne and I were just doing a bonus episode of the podcast, and we were talking about how I was saying in straight relationships, one thing that really gets me down is that men are not curious about a woman's experience as much as I would at all, really. So one of the things that I tried to get through to the men in my life that I knew were voting for Trump was that abortion is women's health care. Mm-hmm. If I am pregnant and I want to keep that baby, but something happens, I might need an abortion to live, to survive. And the fact that a group of cells or a fetus that has not taken a breath yet has more rights than I do and has rights over my life is devastating and infuriating.
Yes, I think that is absolutely the case.
I concur.
I concur in every way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like so much of what we do at the Abortion Positivity Project is really about understanding the landscape that led to this, not only in the way that anti-abortion extremists have like crafted this, to use your brilliant word, dystopia, where people and women cannot access healthcare to save their lives or to make decisions for their own lives and their own selves and their own destinies that are in line with their values and their view for themselves, but also the way that people who self-proclaim to be quote unquote pro-choice but continue to promote incredibly abortion negative, harmful, and stigmatizing narratives around abortion are also really contributing to what we're seeing now, which is, the worst national abortion landscape in 52 years.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about those pro-choice people that give those bad narratives. Can you give me an example of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So the, quote unquote pro-choice community has really crafted all abortion messaging around distancing from abortion, using euphemisms like choice. The word choice itself to self-identify was really intentionally selected to distance from abortion itself.
Interesting. Because the idea of like if I imagine myself, I don't know if you've done this, like imagine myself living in a state where I do not have the choice to get an abortion. The fact that I don't have a choice, even if I didn't want to get an abortion, would make me irate and move.
Yeah.
But because choice is freedom. Would you agree?
Abortion is freedom.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Totally.
The ability to access abortion care, both in a situation where you are in a medical emergency and also a situation where you are not in a medical emergency, but just do not see carrying out this pregnancy as the decision that you want to make in your life, is the fundamental tenet of freedom for women. Absolutely.
So are you talking about like when the left, we need to parade people around who have these really like dramatic stories about the that my dad had sex with me and I was going to have an incest baby, rather than just saying like this should exist because it should exist because women should have a choice and that's kind of the end of the story. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
It's certainly one of the things that we're getting at. And actually, around this last presidential election, I will say that we are a 501c3, we're a nonprofit.
Right.
And therefore, we are entirely nonpartisan, which is actually pretty easy because we find that people on every part of the political spectrum are incredibly hostile to abortion. So it's easy to be nonpartisan.
Wild, man.
Yeah, but we actually, around this last presidential election, because of course, elections and the discourse and news coverage of elections is one of the primary indicators of the conversation that is dominating the national abortion narrative, we ran a campaign called the All Abortions Are Valid campaign. And it really was targeting exactly what you just said, because what we saw during the presidential campaign, which I'm sure if you watch back the debates or if you have traumatic memories of watching them the first time.
Trump just looming over Hillary as she's talking.
Yeah, and in the Kamala debates as well, and also in the one debate Joe Biden did, what we saw over and over and over again, and also not just in the presidential, right? In other races as well, but the presidential is the one that obviously got the most media coverage and the one that people were really talking about. But it continued to play out this same story in the same way, and it would be that a anti-abortion extremist candidate who self-proclaimed to be anti-abortion would say something incredibly disparaging and false and lurid and despicable, particularly about the realities of abortion later in pregnancy. So they would say, I'm sure you've heard, I don't like to repeat their talking points, but
I've heard men repeat their talking points.
But I'm sure you've heard them repeated, right?
Yeah.
So things about the ninth
month abortions. Men that I know and love and respect have repeated that fucking talking point.
Exactly. So they would say that bullshit. I can swear.
Post-birth abortion, AKA murder.
Right.
That was used in the last presidential debates.
Right.
Post-birth abortion.
Oh, God.
Fuck?
Back when I was a stand-up comedian many months ago, I had a joke about post-birth abortion. Like, what the fuck?
That's murder.
I would just act out like a nurse coming in and like kicking a baby.
You're out of here.
Yes. Like, my God, what the hell is
It's insane.
I go, oh, you mean just murder? I go, yeah,
murder.
We're all against that. We all decided we're against that.
Well, right. And like,
that's murder.
And that's exactly the way that they craft this. Because
of course.
they say something that obviously and objectively everybody is against.
Yeah.
And also...
And it's factually inaccurate.
Right. And also isn't happening.
Like, how do we stop you?
One of the 10 commandments. We all agree on that ages ago.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, thou shalt not murder.
Right. So
post-abortion, murder.
Yeah. So like they're painting this picture that is entirely false.
Yeah.
And in addition
But their
to being
ego
false,
really is on that jetpack, though.
Oh, yeah.
Sophie. Like, I don't know how the fuck to knock them off.
so much of it too is like, it's a cruelty. It's like it's
can't
not
stand
just
it.
that they are saying this like because they are like have genuine protection, like they genuinely want to like protect babies or anyone.
No, for real, because that I can work with.
Yeah.
I think there are some people, not the men, but
Correct.
I think there are some people, especially like young people who maybe have been born into this conversation, super religious or something, that think it is murder. And like that I can work with. I can have a conversation with you. But you're exactly right. It's like the cruelty and the control of so many politicians specifically.
Right. And like, I think like, obviously when we're talking about abortion stigma and therefore abortion positivity, what we're really talking about is controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
And what we saw during this presidential election was that the anti-abortion extremist narrative, which as we said was like this incredibly lurid, false, cruel, evil misrepresentation is honestly the nicest word I can say about it, about abortion later in pregnancy. But then, the quote-unquote pro-choice candidate would always respond in the exact same way, which would be that they would talk about how abortion later in pregnancy is incredibly rare. It makes up
people go to Planned Parenthood birth control mostly.
It makes up only a tiny percentage of the abortions that happen in America, and it is almost always, which is true, in the case of a medical emergency or a severe pregnancy complication or what have you, right? Like these overtly tragic cases in these wanted pregnancies is always like immediately what they go to. And I think that really like misses the forest in the trees, which is like the government should not be forcing any person to be pregnant at any time for any reason against their will.
Yes.
Bodily autonomy does not expire at any point in pregnancy, and the government being involved in people's personal lives and their personal health decisions and their personal journeys does not make anyone safer, period, full stop.
Yes.
And we really like lost the plot.
Yeah, we did.
And that's like when we're talking about like how we're not controlling the narrative and how we're letting anti-abortion extremists like walk all over us as pro-abortion and abortion supportive people. even though abortion is so overwhelmingly popular in the United States.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Almost 90% of Americans
Yeah.
support abortion in at least some cases. And yet, whenever, quote unquote pro-choice people, particularly pro-choice, quote unquote pro-choice politicians, are talking about abortion, they always do it with this incredibly apologetic, shameful, whispered, like as if they are running from this low ground when they have the overwhelming high ground. And it's like, can you imagine like a less effective method to convince anyone of literally anything than being like, yeah, so this thing is bad and I'm personally ashamed to support it, but it's really important that we support it.
It's not a good
but
tone.
it's bad.
Yeah.
Like in what universe is that going to be effective advocacy?
How can we talk about it better?
Oh my God, I love that question. That's my favorite question to get. So there are so many ways, but I think that like first and foremost, it's really about, of course, this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but what we say as the sort of overarching principle is by embracing abortion positivity. And abortion positivity is about centering the positive impacts of abortion, and we say understanding abortion as a social good. So how we talk about abortion better is, first of all, with the forefront acknowledgement that abortion is,
Healthcare.
first of all, abortion saves people's lives, and abortion allows people to determine their own destinies. And those are both like net incredible things, right? So
Yeah.
abortion is actually like an amazing force in our society for women and for everyone, for families, for everyone.
Yeah.
So when we talk about abortion, I think it's like leading from that place of understanding, because what we have seen, and like this is, of course, an oversimplification as anything that I can say in, less than an hour is, but like what we have seen is the anti-abortion extremists say, abortion is bad, abortion is bad, abortion is bad, right? And then the quote unquote pro-choice people, they say, no, abortion is not bad.
But they're not saying it's good.
And they're not saying abortion is good. Yeah.
Exactly. But abortion is
It's
good.
freedom.
Abortion is freedom. It is life-saving
Yes.
in many ways, not
Right.
just, right?
Jesus
Well,
Christ.
I love what you're saying, and to me, part of the problem with why it's not like part two of what you said is not a better sell, which is that it enables women to live the life that they want to, is because society doesn't give a fuck if we live the life that we want to.
Yes.
yes. And
So I mean, like, that's why, because I agree with that wholeheartely.
Yeah.
And also, like, additionally, if we're talking about the welfare of children, any child who grew up in a
Such a
bad
shit
home
argument.
knows that to be, having parents who didn't want you or just even weren't
equipped.
prepared for you or equipped for you is not going to make you have a good life.
correct.
Yeah, of course.
It's very, everyone knows that.
And I think too, like when talking about it, maybe we can be doing a better job of reminding people when they give like reasons why women have abortions. So there's so many reasons to save their own life, because they don't want a fucking kid right now, because they're broke, because whatever. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Because
I think
what
it's
you're doing-
over-explained. I think
Yes.
it's over-explained a lot, which leave it to us.
I know, right? Women just yapping away. But it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's over-explained because people are coming from this place of
Yeah.
automatic apology.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And also, it's like, I think there's this cultural idea and like this societal idea that like abortion is default bad, but then there's like, people will talk about like, well, this is why my abortion is an exception to the fact that abortion is overall bad, right? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like if people are talking about their abortion in this sort of over-explaining way, like this is why I had to.
They're internalizing society's gaze
Well,
on
of
it.
course. So shame is taught, right? And
Yeah.
I want to say, like, when we talk about abortion positivity, like we are always talking about the societal narrative and the the sort of zeitgeist conversation around abortion. We are never trying to police someone's personal feelings about their own abortion.
Right.
But shame is taught.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like and I think that it comes from this like sort of societal idea that like abortion is bad or abortion is something that happens to other people or that it is shameful and it shouldn't be talked about. So then when someone feels like, well, I had an abortion or I want to have an abortion and I feel like I need to like over-explain the reasons is because they're being backed into this corner where they feel like they need to explain why the choice that they are making is moral. When we could just come at it all from the default, which we know is that abortion is not only moral, but societal. It is a societal benefit.
Yeah, why would you want a woman to have a baby when she doesn't want to, or in a situation where it could kill her, other than you want that woman to not have autonomy over herself and her life?
Right.
That's the only way. It's only controlling women. I think the women being free in themselves is so threatening to society. Which
100%.
hopefully we're fucking over that hump. I mean, we're not, but I hope we're over that fucking hump soon.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bits of stand-up comedy ever is by Sarah Silverman, and I think it's her latest special. She talks about, she worked with Liz Winstead, who we had a friend of the pod. And, you know, and a lot of comedians, female comedians that we know work for abortion access projects and nonprofits. And a lot of things they do is they will escort people from their car to the door of an abortion clinic. And that's needed because the woman, regardless of why she's going there, is going to get harassed by people with giant signs of fetuses blown up. And Sarah Silverman's bit was, if you are going to have a sign of a fetus to show a woman who's walking to a clinic to get an abortion, make it the actual size of a fetus, which is little less than a dime depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that you're rubbing in her face, this group of cells you're saying has more value than this woman standing in front of you.
Yeah. And that's also like, there is so much misinformation around abortion. And I mean,
the selling baby parts narrative, I've reheard that talking point way too often.
Yeah.
What do you say to people like the baby, like Planned Parenthood, the amount of people I know that I'm close with, men, that were like, that kind of bought into this whole thing that Planned Parenthood was selling baby parts. Like, what do you say?
They really think that?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dear me.
I say the misinformation around abortion is so rampant that you believe that when it is so far
scientifically inaccurate
from the truth, right?
Yeah.
So like, first of all, like if someone asks me a question about abortion in good faith, I answer it in good faith.
But it's not always in good faith.
And if they ask me a question about abortion in bad faith, I do not answer it as if it was in good faith. And that's really important.
How do you answer those ones, the bad faith ones? Because I just want to punch them in the face.
I don't do that.
Yeah, that's good. That's why you work for this nonprofit and I don't. I couldn't volunteer for the I wanted to volunteer for the escorting thing, but I was talking to one of our Joyelle about it.
Yeah, Krystyna would make it worse by having a physical altercation.
If there was a man standing outside a women's health clinic telling me what I should or should not do, I don't care if I'm there to get condoms, if I'm there to get a pap smear, I will fucking annihilate you physically. Like I have no patience or wavelength for that person. Like you shouldn't, you have been so steered wrong that I have no faith in you, I have no hope for you, and I think you're a waste of oxygen, which is not the right approach.
So in that situation, like I wouldn't respond verbally to that situation because the only thing in that situation that matters is protecting the person that is going into that clinic in the way that best serves
and
them,
making
right?
them feel safe. Yeah.
But like that's a really different situation than like if I was having a conversation with someone and they start asking these sort of bad faith questions.
Right.
And so first of all, when I'm responding to a bad faith question, I always keep in mind my own sort of narrative that I am trying to lead with, right? So like if someone asks me a question about abortion in the 9th month, I never will address that as if it's real, right? Because it's not real.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, totally.
You know? So like I do not follow their rabbit hole. You know?
Good. Yeah.
That's really the most important thing. If someone says to me something like abortion is murder, I say abortion saves lives. And then I talk about that.
Yes.
Right? I don't say abortion is not murder. Because then we're talking about abortion and murder.
Right. Because abortion can be murder when you take it away from a woman. When you deny her access to abortion. Yes,
abortion bans are certainly murder.
Yeah. And it's like you care so much about kids. Motherfucker, no, you don't.
No.
You know how many fucking kids are hungry in America that can't afford school lunch, that can't there's so many children that need our help, that need to be adopted, that need to be loved and cared for and respected. go help those kids.
Yeah.
It's so not about that. Like the person that is even beyond the bad faith questions to you, like the person that is willing to protest or that is willing to like even post a bullshit fact about abortion, like they're like, do you think that they can be saved, for lack of a better word, in terms of like understood? Because what I understand when someone approaches me and we don't agree, but they approach me like, oh, why do you think abortion isn't murder? But they have a genuine curiosity, which I assume is like a good faith question, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely a good
I
faith
fucks
question.
with that hard.
Totally.
Like I live for those moments because you're genuinely curious. But like the bad faith people, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, well, they're certainly the loudest.
Totally.
I mean, they are a extreme minority of American people, but they are very loud. And that's very intentional. And I would happily point that out too.
Yeah.
Like I have said many times to people, like, this is an incredibly niche, like extremist opinion that you are pretending is like a mainstream feeling when it absolutely isn't. Like what you are saying is completely fringe nonsense.
Oh, that makes me feel better. Because knowing that the majority of people don't think that.
Oh,
because you're right.
Majority.
They are the loudest, and it's easy to get down on like, why the fuck would somebody be like that?
Yeah.
Why would somebody be like that?
They're the vast majority. And it's also like from a theory perspective, like a theory of change perspective for our organization, I say we are not out here trying to convert one single anti-abortion person into someone who supports abortion. We do not need to do that. We have the numbers by far.
Yeah.
What we are trying to do is talk to people who self-identify as quote unquote pro-choice, but have grown up their entire lives in this conversational climate where the only thing that they are exposed to is stigmatized, abortion negative, and frankly, losing arguments around abortion. And we teach them how to realign their abortion advocacy and the way they talk about abortion and think about abortion with their own stated goal of having abortion be safe, legal, affordable, accessible, and stigma-free.
That's beautiful.
So it's to strengthen what you have control over rather than fight against people who disagree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about like, it's very strategic, I think.
Yeah,
like,
well, the left needs to be more.
I know.
Sometimes
I know you're a nonprofit, so you're neither the right nor the left. But
so true.
But and also too, like we criticize a lot of the liberal leaning stuff because it's like, let's. But I love this. I love the internal pivot of what we can control. I think that's a really wise way to implement positive change.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, so it's like the whole point is to be strategic in the way that we are aligning our advocacy with the future that we want to see. And for some reason, the anti-abortion extremists are so good at like pulling us off of our own talking points, putting us on the defense.
Because we let our emotions get in the way. I mean, that's my problem.
I mean, maybe, or it's that like, we're so afraid to like stand our own ground.
Oh, yeah, that's not me. I want to kill you. Like if you're protesting me going to get an abortion.
But I think like a lot of trolls and stuff like that. So like even when we were at the Women's March a couple weeks ago, and there was a couple people who were obviously influencers trolling just to get libs to react, right?
Yeah.
And so
thank you for warning me about that.
Eric even pointed it out, and so many people were falling for it. So I'm just like, we have to stop paying attention and stop reacting. Not like stop paying attention in that we let, Donald Trump
policies
take over the country and rename it, the United States of Trump. I'm not talking about not paying attention in that
isn't
way.
Our future.
But like stop being reactive and and really work on our own gameplay and strategy. And I love that you use the word strategy because I think a lot of times people can look at strategy and think of it as like a bad thing, like it feels manipulative. But no,
it's smart.
We if you want something done, you do need a strategy. It's
Absolutely.
okay. It's positive.
Absolutely, and also
it's
like
abortion positive.
Yeah, it's abortion positive. Yeah.
Okay, one, yes, and two, like there is this. I think that people are really uncomfortable with the idea that they have already been manipulated.
Totally.
Yeah.
So,
I
like,
fucking hate when I found out I've been manipulated.
Yep.
right.
Oh,
So,
that
like,
sucks.
I feel like when we are talking about strategy, it is not about manipulating people. It is about realigning the narratives that have been manipulated into us out. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
And we also
Pointing out people's biases.
we were just talking on the bonus episode about, heteropessimism, it was called, and just
I feel it.
but I think like the good and bad news is like if you're worried that you need to make good with the fact that you've already been manipulated, if you're a straight woman, I mean, it's already happened.
Yeah, so it's fine.
like, so true.
It's okay, girl.
So just, put it on my tab.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, to quote the 40-year-old virgin, my funniest line.
Put it on my tab.
Funniest
That's
line.
great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it was also strategizing too, is taking the emotion out of it, which is how you get things done, because our brains are very powerful and we can still think with our heart when we're strategizing and taking our emotions out of it. We're just not being, what you're both saying is reactive.
Yeah, completely. And like, we as people are shaped by our society in literally every way, right? So like the idea that we just have like that, like the thoughts and the values that we have are just like popped into our heads out of nowhere is crazy,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Of course,
they've
like,
been brewing.
everything that we all think, now I'm getting like very esoteric,
Love it. We love that.
but like everything that we all think about everything is one of the options that was presented to us by society,
100%.
right?
So
all
that's
that's
why
why
creativity.
Well,
we're
that's
all,
truly.
we're all very bored.
Well, that's why when somebody comes along like Chappell Roan, who like
Yeah.
dresses weird and does her own fucking thing, we're like, whoa, you. Like they're so intoxicating because they go to the beat of their own drum.
Well, yeah,
Totally.
they either go the Chappell Roan route or they go another route
Donald
where
Trump
we're just like, that's, or we're like, that's scary, that's too much. We're not ready for that. I feel like there's like two ways you can react to something
Well,
like
social
Yeah.
change is a lot of that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, to say that it's like manipulative to say that we should like have strategy is to suggest that like society isn't manipulating us every day, right?
Yeah, you're a good person for this job because
Thank you.
It
I'm so
seems
proud
like you're
to have
pretty
it.
even keeled. Like
That's
what's
so
the what's the
funny.
most pissed off you've gotten through working for this 501c3? Like you seem pretty even keeled about it. Like, are you faced with? And I imagine too, being faced with people like I'm was one of the reasons why I'm so curious about this to interview you is I would identify myself as pro-choice and not really understanding. I mean, I got by so many things: my parents, society, men, like all of it. So like, I'm very accepting when I've been told I've been manipulated by something new.
Sure, they'll get you.
I'm like, yeah, probably correct. All right, let's go. It's every moment's a teachable moment when you're me. So I imagine you interface a lot and interact with more pro-choice people, not anti-abortion people, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And like, so I love that you think I'm even keeled. I'm telling
You're
my
not?
therapist that.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I am going to write it down and put it on my wall with like a little ribbon that I'm going to buy for myself. The most pissed off that I get, for sure, is when I talk to people, particularly like white women who are very much a product of the Bill Clinton safe, legal, and rare era.
Oh, wait, so what's that?
Okay, so Bill Clinton, do you know who he is?
I do. I've heard of him.
Yeah.
The safe, legal, and rare. I don't know about that.
Okay, so Bill Clinton, he really like he did a lot of damage with this phrase, but his whole sort of policy around abortion and the way that he would talk about abortion was all about that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare.
Oh, he used rare?
Safe,
That's
legal, and
fucked.
rare.
That's
Well,
fucked.
because
Well, so
he was
then-
trying to like push like slowly. It's kind of reminds me a lot
strategy?
of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which
Yes.
is also him. So he's like, he wanted to push
Jesus.
these progressive viewpoints in, but like, just like,
But like,
And so he
Blowing
probably
them.
thought, I'm going to do baby steps, where really
Yes.
that's creating a lot of damage.
right. So he thinks he's sanitizing, but what he's doing is stigmatizing. And I'm going to tell you the craziest part. Planned Parenthood adopted safe, legal, and rare
Damn,
as
that
their
sucks.
like literally official narrative
Oh,
for a
Jesus.
decade.
Part of me, like, I get it. I mean, I wonder if part of them was like, we just don't want you showing up to the clinic with a gun.
Yeah.
So it's rare, haha. And then on
Yeah.
the DL, we're like, Bitch, you get an abortion for whatever reason you want to.
Yeah.
I truly don't care.
But like the problem is
a lot of damage that does.
Yeah, like the DL part didn't come through.
Right.
we DL'd too close to the sun.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
And like
very damaging.
Right. So like when I talk to these women all the time and they say things like safe, legal, and rare. They say things like,
really?
I would, oh yeah.
They still use the rare part. Because when you said rare.
They say it like verbatim. Like I can, and also, so we run trainings, and one of the parts of our training that we like give people an opportunity to give examples of like abortion negative statements that they've heard. 100% of the time, someone will say, oh, safe, legal, and rare. Because like it is so culturally pervasive among an older generation
of white women.
Wait, do they say it as a positive or a negative usually when they're presenting it to you?
Well, so in the context of a training, they say it as an abortion negative, which is different than being a positive or a negative. Okay, but they say it as an example of a statement that is quote unquote pro-choice, but abortion negative. Right. So an example of like a pro-choice abortion negative statement is would be safe, legal, and rare. Would be like, I would never have an abortion, but you can do whatever you want. Right. To that, I'd be like, can you imagine if I was like, you can wear whatever you want, but I would never wear that.
Yeah, like, fuck off,
don't
bitch.
We mean girls? Right, like we understand as a culture that that's not a compliment. So why people say that about abortion, like comfortably and thinking that they are doing like good and not harm, like.
I was never familiar with the fact that classifying abortion using adjectives such as rare for abortion is like, see, that's good. Like that feels so wrong. It's because who fucking cares?
Well, to be an advocate, we also don't really need to know what the fuck's going on in your personal life.
Right.
Like, we live in a culture where we have to make everything about us. It's like you could just be an advocate, and we don't need to know what your personal choice would be if you got pregnant.
Totally.
Yeah. We just don't care.
Yeah, and it's like I think there needs to be more potentially pushback on whenever somebody brings up a reason why a woman gets an abortion. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like just immediately re-steering the conversation.
That's the thing. Every election
doesn't matter.
There's the parade. There's the parade of the most insane stories of all time.
Right. Well,
like they pull out the most
Kamala
dramatic.
Campaign. But that woman, that young woman who had that story.
For sure.
These are you know the one I'm talking. I'm blanking on her name.
The incest one. Yeah.
Who was raped by her father and got pregnant, or stepfather rather, and she shared photos of how old she was when she was raped by her stepfather. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say. In this podcast, we've been getting emails from women who have been raped by their father or stepfather. Like that is, it's a reality that we've been kind of gotten a window into, and it is bad. And the second we started getting a window into that reality a decade ago, I'm like, I want everybody to get a window into this reality.
Yeah,
incest happens, rape happens to young women so fucking frequently.
100%.
It's happened so frequently that I want you, and I was so glad that she did that. But are there downsides to that?
I just was watching it and I was like, it's an important story for us to know as a culture, but like doesn't need like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. We always
parade the most extreme
case because we feel. Again, it does have the energy of we're losing this fight when we're not losing this fight.
Yeah.
And it's like this over explanation. I guess maybe it's like the most dramatic stories to get that last 10% on our side. I don't really know what the play is here, but it's like if we want to surely no one normalize it. Yeah, every story can't be that because that's not most people's story.
Right, and it's also like it is 1,000% evil to force a person in a tragic case of incest or a very young person who is pregnant
from rape.
Right. It is absolutely hideous to ban abortion for that person. And that is an evil act. And it is an evil act to prevent someone from getting an abortion who wants an abortion who
she just doesn't want to get.
Right, who isn't in that sort of situation.
Right, because I guess
both of those are evil.
Their strategy is like, well, with that young woman who was, working with Kamala on her campaign, surely no one's going to say she shouldn't get an abortion.
No.
So I guess that was their strategy. Mm-hmm. Like, no human being who has a heart and a soul could ever deny that woman didn't deserve to get an abortion.
Right. But
But then it becomes this like this like pecking order of who deserves an abortion
Right,
most.
exactly.
And that's where with the rape and incest exceptions come in with the laws and the bills.
Yes.
It shouldn't fucking matter.
Right.
The rape and
Right.
incest exception, there should be no exception.
there should be
To
no
an
ban.
abortion. Right.
So, well, there should be no ban and therefore no need for exceptions.
Exactly.
But I mean, exceptions, I could talk about exceptions all day. I won't. But first of all, exceptions are not feasibly executed, right? Because for many, many reasons, including the medical providers in the state are far too validly afraid to either lose their medical license or go to
Be in jail for murder.
prison.
Which is already happening.
Right.
A doula was in prison for murder of a fetus. Yeah. And there's so many
Yeah,
women
in
that
Texas.
are fucking going to jail
Yeah.
while they're still miscarrying.
Yeah. Also, like,
It's disgusting.
doctors are fleeing these states.
Yeah.
En masse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and the people, the doctors who are in medical school or in internship or residency or other nurse practitioners, midwives, physician's assistants, like other kinds of what they call like advanced practice medical care providers that are in training in those states, they can't even legally learn how to provide abortion care. So
Jesus.
if you are in a hospital and you are in any sort of medical facility and you are in a case that could fall under that state's abortion ban exception, you still cannot access that care. And that is not even to mention exactly what you're saying, which is like implying that you can get an abortion if you are raped. Why do our bodies need to be violated in order to then earn autonomy over them? Yeah. Right?
Well, you know what's a sad fact? Yeah. We don't humanize women.
Yeah. Did you know that women are human?
I just learned. I heard. I don't know.
I saw an
heard
Instagram
they're evil
infographic
cunts.
of it, and I was like, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Corinne about this documentary I watched on women who were raped and went to the police, and then the whole documentary is about women who then came back to the police after they were interrogated, saying I wasn't raped, and they were jailed for lying. But the reality is they were raped, and they were forced to give a false confession, or saying that their confession was false, rather. And the logical mind goes, huh? If you're raped, you're raped. How can a guy in a room with a bright light make you say that you weren't raped? And the documentary very, very clearly explains exactly how that can happen.
Yeah.
And at the end of the documentary, the resolution, which was a lovely resolution, those women that went through all of that bullshit now teach cops workshops to say, this is what I went through, this is why, this is how I was coerced, this is how I felt every step of the way. But at the end, you're like, God, we really need to humanize women to make women treated to treat women with dignity.
Totally.
It's fucked.
Totally.
So
right?
fucked.
And it's I also think that so much of the anti-abortion sentiment in America is about punishing women for having sex.
Yeah.
So dumb.
I think that will.
That's why the podcast took off.
Yeah.
Women fuck and they like it? Yes, dipshit.
Yeah,
We have
absolutely.
sex and it's fun and it feels good.
Well, yeah, because the
Ooh.
only acceptable way to sexualize women is when men have control of the sexualization narrative and can monetize it usually.
Right.
Monetize it or use it for their own, quest for power or whatever's going on there. But then when we're sexual, for ourselves or in the way that we want to be, well, then that's gotten out of control.
Totally. And I think that that is a lot of what we have seen in this kind of religious extremist version of anti-abortion extremism.
Yeah.
Which has been obviously very dominant, which is this sort of essentially Christian or Catholic shame narrative.
Yes.
But what we're seeing now is a really distressing shift, which is and I think that J.D. Vance is kind of very much a forefather of this ideology, as well as the TikTok men's rights incel monsters. But also I think it's very sort of pervasive and speaks to this significant shift towards right-leaning fascism that we are seeing in the country and across the world, which is that we as youngish women are like the first women literally in history to have like freedom and options beyond like settling for marriage and having babies, right?
We're out of control.
Right. And like,
Maniacs.
I think that
Feral.
like young women were sort of taught that we could be anything we want to be, right? Like we could have options and choices and freedoms that previous generations had never experienced. But I do not think that like young boys that are now men were taught how that would make their lives look different from their fathers.
Yes.
Right? Like our lives look so different from our mothers, but
So different.
right? But like these men
that's a
have
great point.
only been modeled like essentially a masculinity that is exactly like their father. And in the vast majority
Very
of
good point,
cases,
yeah.
that means that they, got married much younger than is, currently the average.
Yeah.
They had babies and they took on the vast, vast, vast majority of domestic labor and childcare, right? So like, I think what women are seeing, like women now are really rebelling against, I don't like the word, I'm slice and dicing the word rebelling. I didn't like that. But like women are like self-actualizing. That's way better.
Yeah, totally.
Women are
totally.
self-actualizing and like living the lives and meeting the potential that we want to meet and having like living the lives that we want to live.
Yeah.
And I think
And are loving it.
and are loving it.
And men are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Well, I'm not that happy.
Right. And I'm like,
Because you're not fucking me. No,
yeah,
that's
and
not
they're
it,
like,
Chad.
And they're like, but like now, like these like women don't want to date me because like I'm a flop, and like
Yeah.
if I can trap them by removing their rights and freedoms, then my life will be so much easier because I will have like essentially like this is a very loaded
Free
word,
therapist baby vessel.
but prisoner, yeah,
Yeah.
like who will like do all the domestic labor, like like take care of my emotional needs, like be my therapist and my chef and my mommy. And I think that we are seeing like this sort of backlash to women's freedom and self-actualization that comes in the form of these like younger men
Yeah.
really like
Yeah, because they're mad they don't get a staff member.
exactly. So like
If I was promised a staff member and I didn't get a staff member, I'd probably be pissed too.
exactly.
And I was never promised one though.
Right.
So I was promised to be a staff member, and I said that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
I noticed it right away when I said this doesn't seem like a
You
good
did.
deal. I don't know why everyone's signing up for this.
Yeah.
Literally,
yeah,
I feel like half the people that like write into you guys are like some version of like, I married this guy because I was so in love with him and now I'm his mother.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah, and just like also like heterosexuality under duress, for lack of a better phrase, because we just talked about this article that Corinne found about how like culture, we just assume everybody's straight.
yeah.
Luckily, that's changing, which is great, because talk about freedom and options. Like that's now we're starting to go, oh, maybe I don't want to fit into this gender norm because fuck that. Like, we're finding as generations or more generations are born, like how else can we feel freer? Which is beautiful. I love that. Love that.
We have time, right? Because I want to ask one more
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
So just starting a 501c3, I think there's a lot of people, especially in our listenership, who really feel exhausted right now and feel powerless. And I'm against that as a concept completely. There's always something you can do. But if you want to do something like large scale, like starting a nonprofit, can you talk us through the process of doing that a little bit? Like, from concept to actually making it legal and viable?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not an easy process.
I knew it wasn't. That's why I was like, I'm actually personally interested too. So,
So I will say, like, my personal background is that I grew up working in New York politics, specifically working for women candidates. And I then ran a PAC that was specifically focused on women candidates. So I had experience like leading an organization before, but I hadn't founded it. I will say, I do have 2 co-founders, Sarah Rowan and Kaylee Scott, the most amazing women on the planet. And if you would like to start a nonprofit and you would like to do that not alone, I think that's better.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
For sure. So I will say, like, the one thing that really like changed the game for us in our ability to actually physically form our nonprofit was that we had pro bono lawyers.
Nice.
Which
That's lovely.
was really the difference between like being able to file IRS paperwork and it being prohibitively expensive to start an organization.
How did you get access to people you knew or people who were invested in the cause?
So my best friend
Nice.
works for a law firm, and he set me up with their pro bono.
Pro bono, does that mean free?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to clarify that.
And that was like, from a logistics perspective, I'll talk about like the theory and whatever too, but like from a logistics perspective, like your legal documents are like,
Huge.
first, they're huge.
They're the foundation of your thing.
Yeah, and like it's the one thing that like you cannot fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Of course.
like if you fuck that up and you're like taking donations illegally, like you can go to jail. You know? You cannot fuck that up. So
So how much are we talking if you had to pay for that, do you think? Do you know?
thousands of dollars for sure.
Like under 10K or more than that?
It depends. I mean,
So I'm like, I think 10K is like around the number where you're like, okay, well, you can scrape that together. If we're getting more than that, then it starts feeling like unachievable.
yeah, it really depends because it's also like, you know, when you work in abortion, as I am very proud to do, like there's insurance things. There's like a lot of folks that like didn't really feel safe working with us, not because they don't support us, but because they have like, you know, like security concerns or
They
whatever.
didn't want to be flagged in that way.
Right.
Oh, I want to be flagged so bad.
Yeah.
Flag me, bitch.
Yeah. So, well, you say that until they
Flag
arrest
me.
you.
Oh,
You say that until you
about-
can't go live on
literally,
Instagram
talk
for
about-
253 days like me.
Did you get
Talk about
shadow banned or did you get real banned?
No, I'm banned from going live for like the rest of my life because they just think I'm a bad girl.
irresponsible whore.
Oh,
Being a woman in public,
fine. It's
a
fine.
big risk.
I bet you could find many, many people that will think that we're all 3 of us are irresponsible whores.
Right.
Yeah.
Just for caring about abortion.
Yeah.
As we do. So that's definitely like the logistical piece of it.
Sure.
So that's then you need donors. I mean, you're running for office, right? You know how it's like donors, right?
I know. Thanks. I'm glad that you said it this week,
Dude,
so I didn't have to
That's
say it
all
this
we
week.
need is donors. And
Yeah.
there's so many legalities.
Yeah.
There's so many.
I'm like, if everyone listening, just give me $10.
So like
Truly.
blessedly, there are less legalities around nonprofit
awesome.
than there are. I mean, there's more legalities from our perspective in terms of like what we are and are not allowed to do around political speech.
Yeah,
But
right,
like
okay.
from a donor,
Yeah.
like there are fewer. But you know, my background, I used to be a political fundraiser. So
Oh,
I have lived,
so you get it.
I have lived your life, my dear. And it's brutal. And also
Yeah.
like, it's so brave of you to run, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's like really hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And then also everyone has your address.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That blows.
It's a little
That
dangerous,
blows.
and everyone knows where you live.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like Corinne said, I don't know when you said this, but like, I'm not running for mayor because I want my life to be fun.
No.
Because
Gosh.
it's not fun. It's not easy. It's not good feelings. It's
No,
getting
it's-
heartbroken every day.
It's so much sacrifice. And also, like, I have found when people, especially women, run for office, like, so many of the people that you think, hope, and expect to come through for you will blow you off and flop.
Oh yeah, I mean
And that
my
sucks.
friends list is much shorter, so that's good. That'll save me
That's
my
crazy.
money in the long run for all the gifts I don't have to buy anymore.
Yeah.
That is like a universal experience that I think is never talked about. Like,
yeah, it's
is-
very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I
man,
talked about
bitch,
it
I
on
thought you
here,
were a
but-
real one. Come on.
Yeah.
yeah. It's a bummer.
Any
Well, I
other
mean, to me, just to go on like to a women's issue, I was actually going to talk about this in the intro anyway, but since you brought it up, I think it's also societally, we don't know how to react to something because it's a little bit like what you're running for mayor or whatever public office it is. Like we are happy to give money when someone is doing getting married or having a kid. Think of how much money you've done for that. So what I'm trying to get out here is like me running for mayor, that's my wedding. That's me having a baby. This is the thing that I want to do in my life. So it's not, we can all say we don't have the money. No one's showing up to a wedding without a check, and no one's not sending a little gift when their friend has a baby. So I'm trying to remind people, if we want especially women to progress in this world, we need to start treating other life achievements
same praise and excitement.
With the same level of excitement that we treat these traditional ones. And it's not to shit on the traditional ones, but I think we'll all get along better. These super feminists or whatever won't feel angry about women who want to live a more traditional life of getting married and having kids. It's fine, do those things, but you have to support people in their other endeavors.
Yeah, absolutely. And like come through for people.
Yeah.
That I will say, like, I think with running, with like running for office and with like starting my own nonprofit, like something that I have noticed in both times is like, you will say, I am doing this thing, and they will respond, that's so incredible. And then you will say, and I need your help in this way. And they won't respond at all.
Yeah.
So I think like the best thing that people can do is like really, really come through like for those situations. But then like just to finish your original question, like my co-founders and I, we worked together when I worked on the PAC that I was mentioning. And this was a PAC that was very much dominated by and for the older white women from the safe, legal, and rare era.
And just PAC for anyone listening, it's a political action committee.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like people, I have a political podcast, and I feel like we use political jargon a lot, and everyone's like sitting there like we pretend that we know what it means, and some people don't. And
I just learned that today.
And do not feel bad about that you didn't know what that is.
I mean, I know
that
it function, but I didn't know what it stood for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a PAC, it's also like all of these things, they're just like legal distinctions.
Yeah.
Whatever.
For sure.
It's basically, it's an organization, but PAC is the legal distinction. So I was running this organization, and it was specifically about funding quote unquote pro-choice women. That was like literally the mission statement. And when the Dobbs decision happened, I and my co-workers at the time, who are my co-founders now, were like, obviously as an explicitly pro-choice, quote unquote pro-choice organization, like we are going to move in a very abortion forward direction in meeting with the times. And we got absolutely nothing but pushback.
What?
Yes.
The fuck?
And we got nothing but pushback. And that was really like the eye-opening experience where we were like, okay, like abortion stigma is corroding.
Huge problem.
Is corroding even like the own quote unquote pro-choice movement, like the place that you would expect like abortion to be the safest, right?
Yeah.
And abortion stigma is so corrosive, and it's just such a cancer within like the progressive movement, within the quote unquote pro-choice movement, among literally everyone. Democrats, Republicans, women, men, people on the left, people on the right, people who claim to support abortion, and people who acknowledge that they don't, right? It is so universal that we were like, okay, we need to like really like ruin our lives and our careers and our mental and physical health in order to do something about this.
Well, thank God you fucking did.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind.
Where can we find you? Where can we donate? What aspects of your 501c3 do you want to promote? All of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So you can donate on our website, abortionpositivity.com. There's a big donate button, and we would really, really, really appreciate your support. And also, please, please follow us on Instagram at Abortion Positivity. We post all sorts of very fun abortion positive content that you can share and interact with and laugh at all the time. And we have fabulous merch. So if you want an Abortion Saves Lives sweatshirt or a tote bag, or any of our amazing merch that we do in partnerships with social goods, you can find our merch on our website too. Oh, and I brought you guys a gift.
Oh, thanks.
Wait, what's your favorite color?
It depends on the day, but green.
Green. I have green. What's your favorite color?
I mean, pink.
Great. I have pink too. So we also, my co-founders and I, we're big Swifties.
I was looking at that and I assumed you were a Swiftie by the bracelets. Yeah.
So we're big Swifties. And when we were founding the organization, this was all at the same time as like the Eras Tour and the Barbie movie. And what we were noticing was that like there was this huge movement towards celebrating girlhood joy.
Yeah.
But it was
My favorite.
It was at the very same time as there was this huge push towards banning women's rights. And so we were like, this is a tremendous and despicable dissonance. And we decided that we were going to take it upon ourselves to realign girlhood joy and women's rights. So we started making abortion-positive friendship bracelets.
Thanks, girl.
And
Love
we
it.
give them to all of our friends.
I love that. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. Oh, it's hot pink,
course.
which is my absolute favorite. I didn't want to be like I was like, actually, it's hot pink, but that
Be
felt like a little bit
specific, girl.
on the nose.
I got pink for you. And I'm sure this is like amazing content for your audio platform of us like
too. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
handing out gifts.
We need to push people to the YouTube version anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Thank you so much.
So yeah,
This is great.
donate. Follow us on Instagram.
And do you have volunteer opportunities as well, or not there yet?
So we have many opportunities to help us in creating partnerships.
Okay.
So if you have a relationship with an organization, or if you have a significant network or friend group that you think would be really interested in hosting a training, an abortion positivity training about how to embrace abortion positivity and realign your abortion advocacy with your own stated goal of abortion being safe, legal, affordable, accessible, and stigma-free. Please do reach out. We have a contact form on our website too, and we would love to work with you to put on a training with any organization or network that you're a part of.
That's great.
Love that.
Great service.
Thank you.
Oh,
That's the point. You know, we have to get the message out. So all of our trainings, I mean, if you would like to donate as part of our training, that would be great. But also all of our trainings have a total option to be completely free.
Nice.
And we really see that as like a huge, huge step.
Yeah.
And
Accessibility is huge.
Yeah. And like people are not going to embrace like this new language and this new way of advocating for abortion, which in parentheses is much more effective, unless they're exposed to it. Right.
Totally.
So like, this is like having me on this podcast is such a tremendous like kindness, and I'm so appreciative because like even just like getting this message out to the people that already listen to your podcast, like people who are already engaging in your content, like that is such an amazing, amazing step. So like, thank you so much.
Thank you for getting out there and doing something.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Love that. That's the whole. We just want everyone to do something. That's all.
Just fucking do something.
Yeah, do something. I love that.
It's time.
Do something, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show. This was great, super informative. We have this.
Yeah.
So I like the smiley face. This has been another episode of Guys We Fucked, the anti-slut shaming podcast. We will talk to you next Friday.